What's going on, guys? I'm Jim Ansel, this is Real Deal Outdoors, and we're trying out a new segment on the channel today. So before we get into this video, I want to thank Mystery Tackle Box for sponsoring. They send me this box every month. They've been doing it for a couple of years. It's been a fantastic experience. I love getting my Mystery Tackle Box every month, guys. If you really want to become a better fisherman, this box can actually help you do that. And the reason that I say that is because you get all kinds of crazy stuff in the box that you might not typically pick up for yourself when you go to the tackle shop. You're going to be introduced to new kinds of baits that you don't typically use. You're going to be introduced to all kinds of different brands that you've never heard of. And you might just find your new favorite lure. You know, I found tons of lures using Mystery Tackle Box that I now incorporate into my tackle bag, and I use them on a regular basis, and I didn't know anything about them before Mystery Tackle Box. So listen, if you guys want to try out Mystery Tackle Box, I can help you out with that. There's a code down in the description. If you go over to the Mystery Tackle Box website, you're checking out, you can plug that code in. That's going to get you a discount off of your first box if you're a first-time subscriber. You can get your first box for as little as 10 bucks. It's a great deal. You can't go wrong. You're going to get way more than $10 of value in that first box. So definitely check it out. I always tell people that I suggest they check it out. It's a great service, y'all. It gives you something to look forward to every month, and it might just make you a better fisherman. All right, you guys, so let's jump into this new segment. What we're doing here is we're going to take the Dibble, which is the little magazine that you get every month in your Mystery Tackle Box, and we're going to go through there and check out some of the stuff that's in the Dibble. You know, I think the Dibble is one of those overlooked things that you get in your Mystery Tackle Box every month, and I want to kind of shed light on that for some of you guys because there's awesome information in the Dibble. You know, even if you're somebody who's been fishing for a long time, you're going to find some of the stuff in this Dibble useful. You're going to get all kinds of stuff in there. There's tips, there's tricks, there's stories. Sometimes there's little games and stuff in there. Sometimes there's even recipes like there is in this month's Dibble. Yeah, well, what we're going to do in this video is I'm not going to go through the entire Dibble. I'm just going to pick the stuff that's going to be most useful for you guys. I mean, this is a bass fishing channel for the most part. So usually we'll just cover whatever is in there regarding bass fishing. Sometimes we also do some inshore saltwater fishing stuff or some pan fishing stuff. So maybe every now and then we'll cover some of that stuff as well. But this month what we're going to do is we're just going to go in and I'm going to cover what they've got in there regarding bass fishing. All right, and so the bass fishing tip that we got this month in the Dibble has to do with flat-sided crankbaits. All right, and there we go. We've got fishing flat-sided crankbaits. That is the bass fishing tip for the month. And I'll tell you guys what, I'll just read right through this a little bit, and as we go through, if there's anything that I can expand on, we'll stop, we'll expand on it. I've got some flat-sided crankbaits out right here, and I'm going to show those to you guys. And we'll kind of explain a little bit about how you use these flat-sided cranks, when you should use those flat-sided cranks, stuff like that. So let's jump right into this thing and read what we've got here. All right, it says, round body baits, coffin build plugs, and loud knocking lipless crankbaits all have their time and place. But when crankbait fishing gets tough, the subtle nature of a flat-sided crankbait might be exactly what you need to trigger more bites. All right, flat-sided crankbaits cover water quickly, just like other crankbaits, but they're less aggressive. This is ideal in unfavorable conditions when fish prefer something more subtle. Unlike the wide wobble from a rounded crankbait or a random hunting action that you find in other baits, flat-sided crankbaits feature a streamlined path as they tightly wiggle through the water. Tough fishing conditions can come in different forms, but common causes include a cold snap, bluebird skies, high water levels, and increased fishing pressure from other anglers. All right, so essentially what we're saying here is because of the action that you're going to get out of the flat-sided crankbait, it's going to be better for using in those more finesse kind of conditions where you want a more subtle action. You're not necessarily going to want a big loud crankbait. You're not going to want something that's creating a lot of commotion. You know, sometimes those baits are exactly what you want, but sometimes you just need something a little less like a bull in a china shop. And that's exactly what these flat-sided crankbaits excel at. All right, so most of the time they don't come with rattles. I think that's something that we're going to read here in just a minute out of the Dibble. They just keep a really tight wobble, especially like this one right here is a Bagley. It's made out of balsa, and balsa keeps a very, very tight wiggle. And what that's meant to do is just to trigger reaction strikes, guys. You know, you're not going in and trying to call the fish in necessarily from a long ways off. This is one of those ones that you want to put right in their face, and it's going to trigger that fight or flight response. That's what these are really good at. All right, so let's jump right back into the Dibble, and we'll continue on here. All right, one of the easiest shallow water patterns to follow is repeatedly casting at targets near the bank with moving baits to draw a reaction strike. All right, the idea is to get your bait in front of as many high percentage areas as possible while triggering the fight or flight response from the fish you presume are sitting below. Some fish will say no and let the bait pass. Others will quickly nab at the passing lure, giving you a chance for a quick hook set. Flat-sided crankbaits are also one of the best cold water power fishing options. They're sleek, easy to throw, and provide a low-key wobbling action needed during tough fishing conditions. Most flat-sided cranks generally come without rattles, which is something that we just mentioned a second ago, which follows the less is more approach you often see in cold water angling. All right, so that's something that we didn't talk about just a minute ago. Now, we did say that they're pretty much made for your high pressure conditions, your less than favorable conditions, and cold water is one of those. This is going to be great for you guys to use in cold water situations. All right, and I think that the flat-sided crank is one of those lures that when we're talking about fishing in cold weather conditions, it's one of those baits that we overlook quite a bit. You know, we talk a lot about using stuff like your lipless crankbaits. We talk a lot about jigs and, you know, things that are smaller lures that slow things down quite a bit. And we do that because the bass, during the wintertime, their metabolism slows down. And so they're not looking to chase baits. They're not looking to eat huge meals. They're looking for something it's a smaller presentation. It's a slower retrieve, stuff like that. And this can be perfect for that. You can get this down to the desired depth, and then you're going to slow roll it kind of. Because, like I said, it keeps a really tight wobble. You know, it's another thing that these flat-sided cranks are great at is once you get down to the desired depth, if you slow roll this guy, you just slowly retrieve it, it's going to continue to wobble, especially balsa crankbaits like this Bagley that I've got here. You know, they're really good at maintaining their action even when you're not burning them back through the water. So you can do a really nice slow retrieve with this guy, which is going to be great in your winter weather conditions. All right, and at the bottom of the page down here, we've got a pro tip. And it says, try not to overlook the flat-sided crankbait. As the bait reaches its diving depth, barely crawl the crank along as it bangs off the bottom and deflects off of target areas. And again, that's exactly what we just said. You're going to be able to get that down to the desired depth, and you're going to be able to slow roll the guy. And again, this is one of those lures that you can bang off of cover. It's not going to get hung up as much. All right, and the way that this thing kind of comes through the water is with the nose down, and that's kind of what keeps it from getting hung up on everything. This lip is going to deflect off of most everything on the bottom. So it comes through the water kind of like this, all right, and it'll deflect. You know, when it hits something, it'll kind of come up and over like that. You know, but if you are one of those guys that's worried about hanging up on cover on the bottom, I've seen some guys take and they'll remove the front treble hook. Or I've also seen guys who will take and cut off the front barb on the front treble hook so that you're not leading with a hook point right there. Both of those I think are great. I've done both in the past and they work pretty well. So yeah, there's a helpful tip for you guys if you've never heard that before. That might help you guys out if you're worried about snagging. You know, another thing about most of these flat-sided crankbaits is they float. So if you do feel like you're starting to get caught up in grass or something like that, if there's some vegetation on the bottom and you start to feel some resistance, you can just stop and this guy will, you know, float up to the surface, and then you can start your retrieve again. Usually that resolves the issue. Well, all right, guys, so that's going to be your Dibble tip for the month. Flat-sided crankbaits, they're one of those things that I always keep in my tackle box. As I've said before, I don't get to use crankbaits a whole lot around here because the water is so shallow, there's so much cover. But when I do get to use crankbaits, oftentimes I'll throw a flat-sided crank just because they're usually shallow diving crankbaits. They come through cover and over structure particularly well for a crankbait. So listen, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure you hit that thumbs up button. If this is something that you would like to see us do on the channel more often, let me know down in the comment section. We can do this every month, or we can do it a couple times a month because there's other information in the Dibble, of course. We can break it up and do it like every couple of weeks or something like that. Like I said, I think this is a really underutilized resource that you guys get in your mystery tackle box. I'm sure that there are a lot of guys that just take and throw this thing away and don't look at it. And I think that's a mistake. I think there's information in here for everyone, whether you've been fishing for 30 years like I have, or if you're new, you're going to get something out of the Dibble. All right, well, thank you guys as always for watching. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel and then hit that little bell notification down there. That's going to let you guys know every time that I post new content. Again, I really appreciate you all being here. I really appreciate you guys being patient with me as I get things rolling again on the channel. If you didn't catch the last video, go back and watch that. That kind of explains why things have been so slow on the channel as of late. And hopefully things will pick up here before too long. But that's going to do it for this one, and I'll see you guys again soon.